Last night, I had the time of my life at the Eras tour. Today, I watched Madam Web, which was not the time of my life. Look, nobody went into this film expecting a masterpiece, but I wasn't expecting this bad reviews. Today, I finally went to see it, and shockingly, it wasn't that bad. Sure, it wasn't great or even that good, but I had a fun time watching it. To start off, the film's main struggle is with the acting. Our lead actress, Dakota Johnson, for the most part, is just bland, but in some parts it's downright bad, like in the scene where she talks to her mother, who was also a horrible actress. Me and my sister couldn't hold in our laughter at that opening scene. Overall, the acting is quite bland, except for two standouts that I'll get into later. It also doesn't help that this film feels very disconnected from the Spider-Man mythos. Sure, you have Mary Ben Parker here, and Peter Parker is technically in this film, although only in baby form. But overall, it just doesn't feel like a superhero film. The Spider-Woman suits have about 2 minutes of screen time, which is a shame since they're actually pretty cool. They introduced this weird spider tribe in Peru that was an unnecessary addition to the Spider-Man lore. To have the iconic responsibility line stem from this original character who was the leader of the tribe is a bit just dumb and disrespectful. It was a bit strange to me how they didn't connect Madam Web to the Spider-Verse, since that's her whole deal in the comics. The Web of Life and Destiny isn't even mentioned, though it's highly likely that Web Vision thing is that. The editing is also quite bad. It's extremely choppy, especially in Ezekiel's vision of the future. I've spent a long time dogpiling on this movie, but there was actually a few positives. For starters, I think our three Spider-Women had good banter, but it was carried by Celeste O'Connor. The enemies to friends dynamic of these women was really well handled. I think that the transition from insulting each other in the forest to dancing on a table was pretty seamless, although that table scene was a bit awkward. Julia had a whole personality change in about 2 seconds, and it felt a bit clunky and forced how they got up on the table. I think it was smart to have the girls' traumatic backstories all mirror each other, but not be the exact same. The CGI was actually decent. I liked how agile Ezekiel was, and I thought it was interesting to have an evil Spider-Man and to see how that power set could be used for harm. It was a bit stupid in some scenes how slow Ezekiel crawled, but plot armor, I guess. There was also some great action sequences. The toxic fight scene was funny in a camp way, but also well choreographed, as well as the train sequence. The ending fight was actually pretty suspenseful and thrilling. The third act wasn't the generic CGI fest most Marvel movies have these days, and it actually used creativity with those fireworks to stop Ezekiel, which was also a callback to earlier in the film, so I thought that was all very well done. Now let's talk characters, starting with Cassandra Webb, aka Madam Web, portrayed by Dakota Johnson. As I said earlier, this is a very bland performance from Johnson, ranging from stale to downright rotten. I think that whilst her social awkwardness was relatable and some of her dark humor was funny, I think they went a bit too far with it, making her very unlikable. At the end of the film, she finally becomes Madam Web in a cringe scene that felt rushed and not well done. In most films, the origin story is the first act, not the whole movie. I guess they were hoping they'd get a second one, but there's no way that's happening. It's baffling to me that they decided to make a film about this character, who's never had a solo comic before, when they could have made one about these fantastic Spider-Women, who were easily the best parts of the movie. Julia Cornwall, aka Spider-Woman, played by Sweeney, was sadly my least favourite of this trio. I recently watched Sweeney in the rom-com Anyone But You alongside Glenn Powell, where she was pretty good, but here she doesn't have much to do. She is cast in the role of a people-pleasing goody two-shoes who is really, really annoying. This archetype is very strange for Sydney, since she is Hollywood's latest it girl. Her dynamics with the Spider-Woman weren't that fleshed out or great, as most of their interactions were making fun of her. Anya Corazon, aka Araña, played by Isabela Merced, is pretty fun. She's kind of an in-between of Julia and Maddie, being sassy and sappy. A few moments of hers gave me lesbian vibes, especially the diner scene and that forest scene where she compliments Julia. I don't have much to say about her since she was probably the least important Spider-Woman, but I think she was good and I can't wait to see her take on Hawkgirl in Superman Legacy. Maddie Franklin, aka Spider-Girl, played by Celeste O'Connor, was my favourite of the Spider trio. They were fun, sassy, and relatable to me as a young person, more so than Cassie. Their reactions were quite realistic and I really loved their carefree attitude. As for the film's villain, Ezekiel Sims, played by Tahar Rahim, is pretty bland. I liked his suit and the use of spider powers, but the actor didn't do a great job of conveying emotions or the line deliveries. He felt like the other generic Sony villains. One of my favourite characters was Ben Parker, played by Adam Scott. He was funny, charming, and had an interesting dynamic with our leading lady. I liked the Aunt May tease, but found it weird that it wasn't ever brought up again. It was even weirder that Cassie came to the baby shower of her partner's sister-in-law when his brother wasn't even there. Also, that joke Cassie made about knowing his death was cold, but funny. Just like Maddie, Uncle Ben was a source of energy in an otherwise bland movie. Overall, Madam Web wasn't as bad as the reviews say. It's by no means great and has a lot of flaws, but it's still a fun time that'll become camp soon enough. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. That was my review for the latest Sony Spider-Man film, Madam Web. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Have a great day. Bye!